Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Gnatrat, The Dark Gnat Returns, and Happy Birthday Gnatrat, two comics created by Mark Martin. Mark Martin, at the time, was a fan artist. He had a comic strip in the Comics Buyer's Guide, and it's kind of amazing. Both of these comics came out in 1986, the same year that Dark Knight Returns came out. Obviously, this first issue here is a parody of The Dark Knight Returns, but that seems like such a quick turnaround. The comic came out, was a phenomena, and there were other parodies of it. But he comes out with this one, and it's like 31 pages or maybe more of story and art. He wrote, drew, he penciled and inked the whole thing. And it's really accomplished. It looks great. So it's kind of amazing that he read the comic and this quickly came out with a parody. And I guess it did well because there's a few Gnatrat comics. So I'm missing one of them. It's the Dare Rat Tadpole comic. So I'm going to do the first two today, the two I just showed you. And I do have this one, Gnatrat the movie, which came out in 1990. But I'll wait to do this one after I get that Dare Rat, if I ever do. Hopefully I will one day. Because I really like these Mark Martin comics. They're pretty damn funny, and his cartooning is outstanding. Even at this young an age. I mean, he was a fan artist at this time. This is probably the first thing he ever had published. And it's good. As you can tell, the parody is dead on. This cover is a really good parody of the original Dark Knight Returns #1 cover. The colors are by Lanny Chapelier, so I guess he wanted to duplicate that Lynn Varley awesomeness, and this guy helped him out doing the color here. This is the Gnatrat's insignia, and all the graphic design in this is made to kind of seem like the Dark Knight Returns. It's a really dead-on parody. Of course, it goes off into many other directions, though. He does create this kind of new world. I think that's why Gnatrat continued. It wasn't just a parody. Just like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it was its own thing. So even, scene by scene, he satirizes the original. The opening scene where Bruce Wayne in Dark Knight Returns is driving a race car, almost hoping that he dies or not caring if he does. In this one, it's just he's playing a video game. So we're introduced to the Gnatrat, and his name is Boo Swain. And he's very much like Bruce Wayne, except he's more old and kind of senile and cranky, and he's kind of half blind. We see all these aspects of the Dark Knight Return satirized. The television screens. It's really like an old Harvey Kurtzman parody where they really Mark Martin seems to have really liked the work. And it's really specific jabs at it. Like the famous scene in Dark Knight Returns where it's the opening scene where the news commentator is saying, "Today marks the 50th anniversary of the last reported sighting of the Gnatrat." Most of you kids never probably even heard of Gnatrat. I don't know why we even bothered to mention this then. Things like that where, when you think about it, why would they even mention it, on the news? So this is kind of a weird thing. So this world, it all takes place in a forest. It's almost like this Wind in the Willows background, except, it's grittier. But the post-apocalyptic nature of this scenario isn't that there's rampant crime everywhere and the mutant gangs. It's just that comics have gone down the toilet, and it's all because of the first here's the parody of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So he's commenting on the whole black and white boom, which is at this point only a year or two old, and pubescent spasmo kung fu tortoises. And then, of course, like in our real world, that led to parodies of parodies. And there was the adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters, which here are the geriatric gin-crazed gypsy gerbils. And continuing ad need them. Just it got ludicrous, like a dog chasing his own tail. Parodies of parodies. Excuse me. And apparently there's these art gangs running around. So they're like the mutants in this. They don't seem nearly as vicious, but they're in control of the comics industry now. They're basically like the progeny of these trailblazers. So every comic now is just a stupid parody. Up Chuck Charlie, Chun King, Chore Boys, Jumbo Jiu-Jitsu Junkies. He comes up with a lot of funny names. So we see Boo Swain talking to the commissioner. And let me see his name here. So this is Commissioner Gordon, but here he's... Oh, Commissioner Gonzo. Not a very close name. And this is totally like page for page parodying scenes in The Dark Knight. But he also parodies other things. This is that scene where the leader of the art gang, you know, the mutants in the original, the leader of the art gang sends a videotape to the news. You know, basically his manifesto. Do not call us art gangs. When our Mentos were overthrowing your puny comic book industry, you could call us that. Now we control more than just your comics. We control the forest. We are the law. But look at the outline of this guy. If you remember, this looks like the demon in Ronin. So he's not just parodying Dark Knight Returns, he's retiring a bunch of Frank Miller properties and stories. So we see the flashback origin, just like in the original. Very cute little Boo Swain. In this one, his father was a comic artist. He was walking down the street with his wife and kid, and he had his original art. And some guy comes up to him, some thug, and says, "Give me those pages." And in this one, they just faint dead away. That's pretty much his tragedy. And I think they rip up some of the comic pages. I like how one of these commentators, he's a giraffe, so you just see his neck the whole time. He just has so many, like every page is packed with sight gags and funny jokes and funny satire. I guess Boo Swain is also kind of an alcoholic. He loves Thunderbird wine. Little specific parody things, you know, when in the original Bruce Wayne is naked staring at the Robin statue or his costume, and he's like, "Why the hell am I standing here naked?" So it's that kind of, you know, Kurtzman-esque humor. And he was Tadpole. So Tadpole was his Robin, and apparently something bad happened to him. I think his name was Prick. We see even a parody of the Comics Buyer's Guide, which was his boss at the time. Well, it's not really a parody of that. It's their comic listings. Tell you what's coming out. And they're all ridiculous, you know. Samurai Cow. Samurai Zygote. Umbilical Hairy Hairs. There's that debate scene, the right versus left debate from the original. In this one, though, the liberal is a hippo, and when she gets mad at her opponent in the debate, she just sits on him, and we see she crushes him. We see blood, and then the news commentator, he says something that's maybe a slightly sexist. She jumps on him, so it just spins off into these things that have nothing to do with the original. Just Mark Martin's a funny guy, and like, this parody is just a framework for him to have this just great humor comic. But just really good drawing. Like, and we'll see later that he can ape any style he wants. This is like seriously like world-class cartooning, I think. So since there's no cars, these rhinos are basically their own police car. So Gnatrat's back and he's kicking art gang ass. I like that panel there. There's the giraffe commentator again. It's a dumb gag, but it cracks me up every time. This looks like it could be a page from Cerebus. I wouldn't be surprised if he was specifically parodying that, because he has a lot of targets in this. It is crammed with inside jokes and skewering things in the comic industry. Look how this is great. Parodying that number 3 cover where Frank Miller had that, the kind of chunky Batman. But this line work is really good. Specific panels are total, copies. So now, just like in Dark Knight Returns, there's a new tadpole. This young girl. I think she's a duck or something, or a chicken. I'm not sure what she is. It's kind of a weird character design. So she's the new tadpole. I really like the stuff that cracked me up in this. If you guys remember Dark Knight Returns, remember the mutants? They kind of had that weird slang, like slice and dice and whatever. So this guy's saying, they say we be baby, dirty die do do do. They be silly silly, we be bad, we kill. Fake, take guns, take bullets, go team. That's pretty funny stuff. So this is a parody of that scene in the dump, when Batman confronts the mutants. I love this abstraction of taking that mutant. Remember the mutant had file teeth? And he abstracts even further, so it's almost just like a glyph or something. That's his mouth of the one of the leaders of the mutants. I gotta say so, I think I wish I read Dark Knight Returns like last week or something, because I know some of these things are specifically parodying things in that comic, which, I haven't read in quite a while. So parts I was just getting a little confused, lost in the storytelling. Like, all of a sudden Tadpole's there. And I just didn't quite get a few sequences. But I think it's just because he's trying to parody every aspect of a huge graphic novel in one slim black and white comic. So now we meet Tadpole, this new, this girl. Her name's Robin Redbreast. And Gnatrat recruits her, even though his loyal butler, Alpo, that's also not the best parody name. Alpo was trying to talk him out of it and say, hey, remember what happened to young Master Prick, the first tadpole? And just like in Dark Knight Returns, Gnatrat is just all like, she's a soldier. This is a war. This tadpole character design is just bizarre. So fucking weird. So he wants to parody everything in Dark Knight. So just really quickly, they'll do this little side plot. And look at this page. If you guys remember, that's dead on. The shading, the lighting. That's a really good parody art. So now this is great. So now the art the whole time has been, trying to be like Dark Knight. But now when he finally leads the top dog of the art gang, it's now he's full on parodying Ronin. And look, even the style. Look how good he does this parody, faux manga style. So it's Miller doing manga and Mark Martin is doing Miller doing manga. I still don't get this whole conflict about the art gangs and comic books. I think this page looks great. This, I think, is panel by panel. I haven't read Ronin in quite a while, too, but this looks very familiar. And here's that scene where Ronin, well, parodying the scene where Ronin shoves a sword into himself to kill the demon who's holding him. It turns out it's a collapsible blade. And in this one, the art gang leader, he just dies of fright. And that's how Gnatrat is fine, is not injured. And then, if that wasn't enough, this second to last page here, parodies the last page in the Born Again Daredevil sequence. And all of a sudden he's got a Daredevil type logo on. So it's just he's really just trying to hit all bases here. Even the writing changes to like that. My name is Bruce Wayne. The doctor says I'll be blind within a year. I'm working on my other senses. I live in the forest and I love a good comic book. That's all you need to know. Like that's specifically, the writing of the Born Again comic. And we have a little foreshadowing that the next villain is going to be the Burger Kingpin, who, by his silhouette, is obviously going to be the Kingpin, a parody. Oh, I guess that was the last page. Here's a little ad. And just like the original, the graphic design totally nails it. The whole comic book business was going to hell. So not only is it a parody of, Dark Knight and many other things, it's also a commentary, a really good satire on what was going on in the comic industry at the time, the black and white boom, which I thought was kind of an interesting time in comics, but a lot of shit was produced. Really bad comics were made during that time. So here's the second issue, same year. It seems like it's a different company, even though I have a feeling it's basically the same company. They just changed their name or the editor went somewhere else. And this one's called Happy Birthday Gnatrat. This is, I don't know if you guys know this. This is a very well done, direct parody, the graphic art here, of the Batman number 400 issue, which is a great comic. If you don't own it, run out and get it. It was a great issue. They got all these great artists to draw it, but this logo, they nail it. And the cover was by Bill Sienkiewicz. So now we get to see Mark Martin doing this. I'm sorry, Sienkiewicz. I keep saying his name wrong. And throughout the comic, we're going to see this Sienkiewicz aping, and it's great. He's really good at it. I like this just random weird stuff. Like he has a Kiss belt buckle for some reason. And that since that Batman was a bunch of creators, all getting together, so he makes acts like there's all these creators in here. Though there is a real one. These are all fun, made up names. But look, Jim Woodring is in here. I totally forgot about that. And of course, these guys were pals. A few years after this, they would do tantalizing stories together for Fantagraphics. And this is dead on graphic design. This is exactly what the inside front cover of Batman 400 looked like. I believe it was an editorial or an appreciation by Stephen King, if I remember correctly. So for some reason, this is by Truman Capote. And I've never read Truman Capote. But if this writing style he's really good at this. I don't know if it's Truman Capote. He's good at satirizing, but it reads like that kind of fiction, the kind of stuff you would read in New Yorker or Harper's. He really nails it. And that's really impressive that this cartoonist can write so well, this parody writing. I mean, this is National Lampoon worthy. Really well done. And it's just this weird story that has nothing to do with Gnatrat. This Truman Capote character talking about his Halloween when he was younger, hanging out with his best friend and his dog. Very weird that he would put this in. So now we see, obviously you can tell it's a different art style now. We got the 25-cent comic bin stamp. That's where these were always. Nobody gave a shit about these, and they probably still don't. So now he's looking at kind of parody comics of himself in this reality. Natty Gaddafi. It seems there's a Gaddafi comic about Muammar Gaddafi, but he's natty. So he gets this comic as a present. It infuriates him, and he tears it up. I gotta say, guys, this is amazing art. Not only is it an amazing facsimile of Sienkiewicz's style and line work, it's just a great cartoony style. Like, I would love, if this had nothing to do with Batman, I would love to see Mark Martin just draw a comic in this style. This is kind of weird. Instead of that giant penny in his Batcave, he's got a giant IOU for a cent. He's got a really daffy sense of humor. I really like it. So to be honest, I was lazy. I didn't want to take that Batman off the shelf and reread that comic. So I suspect, though, it is a very direct, satire. What my memory remembers of that comic I haven't read in 30 years is like some of these panels looked eerily familiar. I was like, yeah, I think he's totally satirizing Sienkiewicz's art panel by panel. I love Alpo's coattails here just become this design motif almost. This looks so good to me. the Tyrannosaurus Rex is just this cute little Gertie the dinosaur type. Stuffed dinosaur. Actually, I think he's alive. But look at this Sienkiewicz business going on here. And even though this looks so histrionic, all he's saying is, all I want is to read one good comic book before I go completely blind. And we see a little, God, this is so good. This is so well done. This little montage of his past villains. Jerko, the tuxedoed bumbershoot representative, ugly on one side. I thought that was hilarious. Instead of Two-Face, he's ugly on one side. That's his name. So dumb. And then Tadpole shows up, the new Tadpole. She says, happy birthday. And she's wearing a Pee Wee Herman button. Yeah, she's supposed to be a parakeet, huh? Just such a weird character design, this weird head. So look at that. I love this, how like then her hand continues into this page. She's holding up this kind of homemade comic. I think she kind of collaged it. And it's so nice. I totally forgot this had a color insert in it. So it's famous first edition. And we get to see a parody of Gnatrat #1. Well, I'm sorry, a parody of Batman #1, Gnatrat #1. This is a sharp-looking graphic design. This looks great. So here's where we get some Jim Woodring. I don't know if you guys read Jim Woodring back in the day, but he used to always make these weird fake ads, which were like transmissions from another bizarre realm. They look just like ads. The graphics are spot on, the fonts and everything. But when you read them, they're just like these almost creepy, disturbing things. It's hard to describe, but they're great. So, I mean, he doesn't do those anymore. But his early stuff, he had tons of them, and I really miss them. So it was nice to see these. I don't know if these have ever been reprinted in one of Jim Woodring's collections either. So then, for some reason, he has a parody of the Cupies by Rose O'Neill. This is The Cherubs by Rosie O'Nosey. And he does this so good. This total Rose O'Neill cutesy style. And remember, still, Mark Martin, this is the second comic he ever did. I gotta say, this guy's kind of masterful. The fact that he can do such amazing parodies, this young guy. It's just incredible stuff. We see Gnatrat there, or at least Boo Swain. And then we have The Origin of Gnatrat by Boob Coon. That's the pretty goofy parody name of Bob Kane. We see The Origin retold, which we already saw earlier. And in this one, the only tragedy is that his baby bottle of Thunderbird wine was ruined, fell to the ground. So his parents just faint, so that's not a tragedy. And he's like, "Wah!" And so just like just like Batman, he vows to get revenge, and he decides to become a master comicologist. And he becomes strong by lifting up giant crates full of crazy Cat and Pogo comics. And when he needs a secret identity, some gnats fly through the window. And he's like, that's it, I shall become a gnat. But look how dead on this is. These are like exact panel satirizations, and he just nails it every time. And here's a Gnatrat and Tadpole versus the, what is he called? The Jerko. And he's this lizard. So this is like an early Joker tale parody. The Joker vows to kill Dr. Ruth Guggenhimmler. Now, this is a very dated reference. For like 2 years, Ruth Westheimer was a sexologist who was on every talk show every week. And then she just disappeared. Never heard of her again. But everyone in America knew who she was. So a very dated reference. So Jerko succeeds. He kills her right on TV. I like this how Bruce Wayne is using a cue ball, that blue stuff, on his nose because it's so sharp. Weird little touches, like he's calling the commissioner. He's calling up... I can't remember the parody name, sorry, Gonzo. And instead of a phone, he's holding up some grapes to his face. So it's almost like implying that, no, this is all in his head. He's insane. He's not talking to the commissioner. He's talking to a bunch of grapes. Here we see the first tadpole, Prick. And the commissioner tries to catch Jerko. And with Gnatrat's help, they defeat Jerko. Of course, he escapes to find another day. And then the commissioner and Gnatrat have a good laugh at Tadpole's expense. We get another couple great Jim Woodring here. Oh, I'm sorry. Only one is. This is Jim Woodring, and this is a parody by Ted Blackman, who I'm not familiar with, for the Roach Ranch. It's like an ant farm. I like how you can get the Frank Lloyd Wright roof for the top. Yeah, this Jim Woodring one's very odd. It's like this odd little story, and then it turns out, oh, they're selling ocaritas. So now we get some more Rose O'Neil parody, and this is like almost looks like a children's book. But the facility, his painting, he's amazing. He's got this shit down. All these different mediums, all these different styles. I love this panel here. All this negative space. Look at Alpo's coattails. They're like, it's like Spawn's cape. This goes on and on. So I guess Gnatrat realizes he's got to get back in shape. So there's a bunch of humorous pages of him. Some hijinks ensuing, of course. Him working out with a giant thing of Limburger and injuring himself. But after a few weeks, he's like back to his old self. He's lifting up that poor dinosaur. But now he's pretty much full-on blind. So this is, I guess, how it segues into that Dare Rat. When he becomes more Daredevil-like, he develops his other senses to a heightened degree. But the way he does it is just ridiculous. He's got a blindfold on, and to develop his sense of hearing, he's listening to I'm Hot for Teacher by Van Halen at blistering levels. So silly. He even develops a sixth sense. And now he's like, ooh, I have to reinvent myself. If only I had some inspiration. And then suddenly a blind devil flies in the open window. I gotta be honest, I don't understand what this chick thing is. They mentioned this chick at one point. He was stapled to Commissioner Gordon's forehead for some reason. It was just a side gag, her joke. And I just don't understand why he's even here. And he's talking about pot. I just don't get it. But it looks good. And then we have this last page here. It's all black. And this is because Gnatrat is completely blind now. He's all like, turn on the lights, Alpo. I can't see you. And he's like, the lights are on, Master Boo. And at the very end, he just says, Alpo, we got any Thunderbird left? So it leaves you hanging, and I assume then there's that Dare Rat Tadpole special that'll continue after this. So hopefully one day I will buy that or find it for $0.25, and I will continue our look at Gnatrat. I just figured it would be fun to look at these first 2 issues. And then we have a fake ad for the Gnatrat role-playing game. This is that coming soon. This is the ad for the comic I was just mentioning. Obviously an Electra Assassin homage. And here's that Truman Capote story continues. It really is pretty good writing. And then we have this, the indicia is also has all this like fun little stuff, like an ad for Jim Woodring self-published comics. I don't even know at this time. Yeah, I don't think Jim Woodring was being published by Fantagraphics yet. He might have been. I can't remember the timeline. But nonetheless, he wasn't the Jim Woodring we know today. He wasn't the, one of the most lauded cartoonists of all time. He was just a young guy starting off. It's interesting. He does a little shout out to Pee Wee's Playhouse and shows some of Gary Panter's conceptual art for it. And he does a little plug for Dark Knight Returns. But we get a few more nice little drawings. Some by Mark Martin. This is a great back cover. This is a photo of just some crazy jack-o'-lantern that he made. So I assume this maybe came out on Halloween. That's why there's that Truman Capote Halloween story. Because it really has nothing to do with the comic. So there you go, guys. Gnatrat, The Dark Knight Returns, and Happy Birthday, Gnatrat by Mark Martin. Just early work by a cartoony master. And of course, if you guys have read his Montgomery Ward comics of the 90s and maybe even 2000s, his art is perfect now. He's just so impeccable. His use of color, so good. But it's really remarkable how much he already had going on this soon out of the gate. So I haven't looked at these in, God, probably 30 years until last night. And I was kind of blown away. I was like, damn, he was good. So I'm pretty sure you guys can find these cheap. Fantagraphics book did a collection of all the Gnatrat comics up to that point. Came out in like 88 or something, or 89. I think it's called The Ultimate Gnatrat. I'm sure that's way out of print, hard to find. But you might pick it up for $1 somewhere. I'm sure it's not expensive. But I hope you guys like looking at these today. And I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.